Imagine a country, rich in mineral wealth, whose national budget rivals that of many developed nations. Its people, however, live in poverty. Their hospitals are critically under-equipped, their schools are dilapidated, and their roads are impassable. For years, the official narrative has been one of economic mismanagement and global headwinds. Then, one day, an anonymous leak surfaces. It's a set of financial records tracing billions of dollars, funds that were earmarked for building a new national hospital, to a series of shell companies across the world. The trail ends not in a national treasury, but in the private bank accounts, luxury estates, and golden toilets of the ruling elite and their inner circle. The money didn't vanish due to bad luck or poor planning. It was systematically, deliberately, and legally stolen. The story of this nation, and countless others like it, is the perfect illustration of what happens when a state becomes a machine of personal enrichment. And that is why today, we're going to talk about kleptocracy, the rule of thieves. Derived from the Greek words kleptes, thief, and kratos, rule. A kleptocracy is more than just a government with a few corrupt politicians. It is a system where the very institutions of the state, the police, the courts, the national banks, are hijacked and deformed to serve one primary goal: to systematically loot the nation's wealth for the personal gain of its leaders, the so-called kleptocrats. We will look at historical figures like Mobutu Sese Seko and modern allegations leveled against prominent officials. We'll also dive into the ideas of the political thinkers who warned us about this ultimate betrayal of public trust. Kleptocracy is often confused with general corruption, or a plutocracy, which is the rule by the wealthy. But a true kleptocracy operates with a distinct and more destructive structural logic. Simple corruption is when an official breaks the law for personal gain, a bribe taken to speed up a permit, for instance. A kleptocracy, however, is institutionalized theft. The state's machinery itself is turned into a looting operation. In a kleptocracy, the laws, the regulations, and the institutions, the things that should prevent theft, are systematically subverted or weaponized. The judiciary is compromised to protect the kleptocrats and prosecute their critics. State-owned enterprises become vehicles for massive, state-sanctioned embezzlement. Procurement contracts are intentionally inflated, with the difference funneled back to the ruling elite. The theft is rarely conducted in cash. It relies on sophistication and a global network of facilitators. The most common mechanisms include: 1. State capture. This is where politically connected elites use their influence to design the country's policies, laws, and economy to maximize their own personal wealth. The government doesn't just tolerate corruption, it mandates it. 2. Resource exploitation. In states rich in oil, gas, or minerals, kleptocrats often seize control of these national resources. Revenue from these commodities, which should benefit the public, is instead diverted through opaque contracts and offshore accounts. 3. Money laundering. Kleptocrats need to make their ill-gotten gains look legitimate. This is a crucial step that takes place globally, requiring the services of specialized enablers, a term we'll explore in detail later, including Western lawyers, accountants, and real estate agents. They effectively wash the money, transforming it from stolen state funds into legitimate international investment. 4. The patronage network. The head kleptocrat, often a godfather-like figure, doesn't steal alone. They maintain power by distributing slices of the stolen wealth to a loyal inner circle of family members, political allies, and military leaders. This network ensures the kleptocrat's survival and prevents internal challenges. The consequences of this system are catastrophic. Kleptocracy is not a victimless crime. It is a direct cause of mass suffering. It stifles economic growth by destroying the rule of law and scaring away legitimate foreign investment. It leads to chronic underfunding of essential public services like health and education, creating massive development gaps. Crucially, it destroys public trust, leading to political instability and social unrest. When citizens see that their hard work benefits only a tiny elite, the social contract breaks down completely. To truly grasp the scope of this global phenomenon, we must look at the faces behind the system. Next, we will examine some of the most infamous historical and contemporary examples of kleptocrats and explore the staggering scale of their crimes. To understand the true destructive power of kleptocracy, we must move from theory to reality. History is replete with examples of leaders who treated their nation's treasury as their personal bank account. Let's look at two iconic historical cases and one major contemporary example. Perhaps the most frequently cited example of a historical kleptocrat is Mobutu Sese Seko, the longtime president of Zaire, now the Democratic Republic of Congo. Mobutu ruled from 1965 to 1997. His methods were textbook kleptocracy. He nationalized key industries and placed them under the control of his relatives and cronies. The country, incredibly rich in minerals like copper and cobalt, became a conduit for personal wealth. By the time he was overthrown, it is estimated that Mobutu had personally looted somewhere between $4 billion and $15 billion from the state. His personal expenditures were legendary. A palace in his hometown of Gbadolite, often dubbed the Versailles in the jungle, regular shopping trips to Paris aboard the supersonic Concorde jet, and estates scattered across Europe. While his family enjoyed unprecedented luxury, Zaire's infrastructure crumbled, its public debt soared, and its citizens were plunged into crushing poverty. Mobutu's rule is a stark reminder of the deadly link between kleptocratic governance and state failure. In Asia, the Philippines under Ferdinand Marcos and his wife, Imelda Marcos, provides another defining case. Ruling for over 2 decades, the Marcos regime systematically plundered the country's wealth through practices like seizing profitable private corporations and imposing business monopolies controlled by their friends, known as cronies. The estimates of their stolen wealth range from $5 billion to $10 billion. Imelda Marcos became infamous for her extravagant collection of over 3,000 pairs of shoes. But the real story lies in the millions of dollars worth of artwork, jewelry, and vast real estate holdings hidden across the globe, including in New York and other Western financial centers. The Marcos family's methods clearly illustrate the transnational nature of kleptocracy. The money is stolen domestically, but it is laundered and spent internationally, highlighting the role of foreign jurisdictions. In the 21st century, kleptocracy has become more sophisticated and globalized. The vast resources of countries like Russia under Vladimir Putin and his circle are often cited as prime examples of this modern phenomenon. This new generation of kleptocrats uses opaque state contracts, complex corporate structures, and vast networks of offshore accounts to consolidate wealth. This wealth is then used for 2 critical purposes. 1. To fund political patronage, ensuring the loyalty of key political and security figures at home. 2. To project global influence, using financial power to corrupt, lobby, and undermine democratic institutions abroad. These cases demonstrate that kleptocracy is not just a form of economic crime. It is a fundamental threat to political stability, development, and democracy globally. But where did the idea of rule by thieves originate in the broader history of political thought? Next, we will step back and explore the philosophical context, examining what thinkers throughout history have had to say about the dangers of leaders prioritizing personal gain over public good. Kleptocracy may sound like a modern concept, but the concerns it raises about rulers abusing their power for personal gain are as old as political philosophy itself. To understand the gravity of the kleptocrats' betrayal, we must examine what political thinkers have warned us about the relationship between the ruler and the ruled. At the heart of most Western political thought, from Hobbes and Locke to Rousseau, lies the concept of the social contract. Citizens willingly give up certain freedoms and resources, like taxes, to the state, in exchange for security, order, and governance that serves the general will. A kleptocracy is the ultimate betrayal of this contract. Instead of protecting the state, the kleptocrat views the state as an asset to be plundered. The reciprocal relationship is destroyed. The ruler takes everything and gives nothing back, reducing the citizens to mere resources. Long before the modern state, Plato discussed the dangers of a leader driven by appetite rather than reason. In his work, The Republic, Plato describes the decline from ideal forms of government to the tyrannical state. While he didn't use the word kleptocracy, his description of the tyrant is relevant. The tyrant is fundamentally corruptible, using the state's power to satisfy his endless material desires. The unjust ruler, in Plato's view, creates a state of fear and poverty for his citizens because his private greed eclipses the public good. The Renaissance thinker Niccolo Machiavelli, in The Prince, famously separated political reality from moral idealism. While Machiavelli advised rulers on how to acquire and maintain power, even he implicitly warned against the excesses of kleptocratic behavior. Machiavelli emphasized that a prince should avoid actions that make him hated or despised by his people, such as seizing their property. Why? Not for moral reasons, but for pragmatic ones. Widespread theft and plunder, the hallmarks of kleptocracy, lead to public resentment, which ultimately destabilizes the ruler's power. Thus, a functional, self-preserving ruler must be restrained in their avarice, a concept utterly ignored by the kleptocrat. More recently, thinkers have directly analyzed the kleptocratic model. Political scientist Sarah Chase, in her book Thieves of State, views kleptocracy as a highly corrosive form of corruption, where illicit networks become the actual operational structure of the state. She argues that this corruption is not a side effect of bad governance. It is the governance. She suggests that these regimes are essentially predatory organizations that act like sophisticated criminal syndicates, meaning we should stop viewing them merely as developing nations and start seeing them as direct threats to global order. This philosophical lineage confirms a core truth. The theft of state resources is not just an economic failure, but a profound moral and political catastrophe. It's a cancer that hollows out the state, leaving behind only the shell of legitimacy. But how does this money actually leave the country and become clean? In our final essential section, we'll turn our attention to the global ecosystem that makes kleptocracy possible. The network of banks, lawyers, and financial safe havens often found in the world's most powerful democracies. Kleptocracy is not a problem confined to the borders of the looted nations. It is a vast transnational system that operates thanks to the willing or unwitting participation of Western democracies and their financial institutions. This is the global ecosystem that allows the rule of thieves to thrive. The cycle of kleptocracy follows three main steps: steal, obscure, and spend. 1. Steal, acquisition. As discussed, this happens in the kleptocrat's home country via state capture, rigged contracts, and resource diversion. 2. Obscure, laundering. This is the crucial step that happens globally. The stolen funds are moved through complex, opaque corporate structures, often layers of shell companies registered in secrecy jurisdictions or tax havens. The goal is to hide the money's true ownership and its corrupt origins. 3. Spend, enjoyment. Once the money is clean, or effectively hidden, it is deployed to purchase luxury assets, penthouses in London or New York, yachts, art collections, and investments. This not only allows the kleptocrats to enjoy their wealth, but also locks their assets away safely in jurisdictions with strong rule of law, protecting it even from their own successors. None of this sophisticated laundering and sheltering would be possible without a critical group: the enablers. These are the professionals, often based in leading financial hubs, who provide the expertise and services necessary to legitimize and protect stolen wealth. Lawyers and corporate service providers. They create the labyrinthine shell companies and trusts that hide the kleptocrats' identities. They are the architects of obscurity. Real estate agents. They facilitate the purchase of high-end property, which is a classic method for laundering vast sums of money through an anonymous, high-value asset. Wealth managers and bankers. They manage and invest the funds, lending a veneer of legitimacy by integrating the stolen billions into the global financial system. Lobbyists and PR firms. They are hired to whitewash the reputations of the kleptocrats rebranding them as successful business people or philanthropists to secure visas, meet global leaders, and avoid scrutiny. The influx of kleptocratic money corrupts not just the financial systems of democratic nations, but their politics as well. Stolen money is used to fund lobbying efforts, buy political influence, and even spread disinformation to undermine democratic processes. Countries like the United States, the United Kingdom, and Canada are increasingly recognizing kleptocracy not just as a corruption issue, but as a severe national security threat that weakens the global order. Kleptocracy is a direct assault on the principles of good governance, the rule of law, and basic human dignity. It starves the poor to feed the greedy. The fight against it requires more than just good police work. It demands systemic change, greater transparency in corporate ownership, stricter enforcement on enablers, and coordinated international action. The choice is clear. Do we allow the rule of thieves to continue eroding democracy and global stability, or do we demand a return to governance that truly serves the people? Let me know what you think in the comments below. What is the most shocking example of kleptocracy you know? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more in-depth analyses.